Welcome. This video serves as the third and final portion of the risk analysis project for SRA 311. It is a complete risk assessment with focus on discussion of treatment and communication. To begin, we must start with the problem scope and the security context we will be evaluating. For this project, we are considering the confidentiality and integrity of our user, Jane. So online stock portfolios, due to the actions of the hacker, be an online environment or physical break into her home. The protector will be Jane, the threat will be the hacker, and the asset will be the integrity and confidentiality of her computer. Here's an overview of the system we'll be analyzing. The systems in this circumstance will be everything involved in the interaction between Jane's computer and the website she's going to, whether that is her PC, the company's servers, firewalls, network, etc. From a physical standpoint, it will be her locks, security systems, or any alarms that she has. In order to compile a list of possible scenarios, we first must compile a list of causes of harm and also possible outcomes. For this situation, we have A, where a hacker gains a remote access to Jane's PC/accounts, and not A, where he does not gain access, and B, where he gains physical access, and not B, where he does not gain physical access. The events are listed below, where A, B will be referenced as E1 and therefore after. Next, for the set of outcomes, we have C, not C, D, and not D. C represents loss of confidentiality, not C is the opposite. D represents loss of integrity, and not D represents the opposite again. The possible outcomes are then listed below as before. C, D will be represented by O1 or outcome 1, and therefore after for the rest of the video's duration. Now that we've compiled a list of events and outcomes, we are able to create a set of scenarios. This is done by mix matching all events with all outcomes. So now we are sure that there are no possible combinations of events or outcomes that could occur. This gives us a complete and full set of scenarios. Since we have compiled a list of possible events that could occur, we then use a pairwise ranking to rank order the events that could occur. We do this by comparing them to each other and seeing what has the which is the more likely event to occur. As you can see from this, E3 is the most likely to occur, followed by E1, and then followed by E2. Next, we did the exact same thing and pairwise ranked the outcomes. And as you can see, O2, outcome 2 had the highest chance of occurring, followed by O3, and then followed by O1. Now that we've completed the pairwise ranking of the causes of harms, we now apply the ratio method to them to determine how much more likely one event is than the other. As you can see in the output below, the probability of event 1 is event 2 is half as likely to occur as it is. So that there we have, we know that the probabilities of all these events must equate to 1. So after plugging them in, we can figure out that our base number of E2 is equivalent to 1/6. As we did with the causes of harm, we applied the ratio method to the possible outcomes. Once again, you can see below that the probability of outcome 2 occurring is 4 times as likely as outcome 1 occurring. Through this method, we equated that outcome 1 had a probability of 1/7 and then could fill in our variables for the others. Now that we've determined probabilities for both the causes of harm and the outcomes, we're able to combine them and create the probability of each scenario. If you remember our scenarios from a couple slides ago, we have 9 of them. The ratios of the causes and the outcomes are multiplied together, and then they were found to have the common denominator of 40 seconds. In order to gain a better understanding of the importance and likelihood of each event, we then took the cumulative properties of the events and outcomes for our scenarios, and we rank ordered the scenarios as followed. The next step in the risk assessment was to use a weighted ranking system to properly assess the value of each scenario. Weighted ranking is a combination of pairwise ranking and assigning values to individual scenarios and then computing an overall value for that scenario. After the completion of the previous table and having a value assigned to each individual scenario, we were able to create a ranked order list of scenarios that were created based on the expected value. Additionally, we were able to calculate the total expected loss by adding up all of the expected values. As you can see, the total loss expected was equal to 0.813. The graph shown here represents the cumulative distribution function, which compares value against the cumulative probability. Now that we have addressed the risks, their likelihoods, and the probability that each of them will occur, we must focus on the treatment of the risk. We must ask ourselves what can be done to reduce these risks. In our situation, in order to reduce the risk of an attack, Jane needs to increase her security in one way or another. Since the scope of the assessment was focused on either an online situation where an intrusion has occurred or in her actual physical home, her focus should be on improving her home and or PC security. Now that we are aware of how Jane needs to approach to reduce her risk, here are 2 recommendations of options that she can pursue. Jane can increase the security at her home to better prepare for a physical break-in, or she can acquire better security for her PC, such as upping her virus protection or firewall or intrusion systems. Of course, she could always take the third route of doing nothing and risk the confidentiality and integrity losses. It is also important to remember that pursuing an option will reduce the risk that she's vulnerable to, but it cannot say that it will eliminate the risk. Following shows a quick graphic of some of the pros and cons of each option, whether she would choose to increase her home security or increase her PC security. Ultimately, we arrive at our final question, which is, which option is best for Jane to pursue? As the assessment shows, and as the pros and cons table shows, it is more likely that Jane would be vulnerable to a cyber attack rather than a physical break-in. It is much easier for an attacker to come in via the web opposed to physically breaking into someone's home. Therefore, we believe the better option to protect herself is to beef up her computer security. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my risk assessment, please feel free to address them to me. Thank you.